Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Should the Steelers bring back Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren in 2025? With the 2024-25 NFL season one game away from its conclusion, it is time for some impactful decisions to be made. The Pittsburgh Steelers will once again be at the forefront of the NFL media this offseason as they have question marks at various crucial positions. One of those crucial positions is in the backfield at running back. Both Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are free agents, with Warren being a restricted free agent, looking for new deals, whether that be with the Steelers or not. So, let us take a deeper look into the Steelers' running back room and whether or not re-signing Harris or Warren is a good idea for 2025 and beyond. Najee Harris's resume. Believe it or not, Harris has been an NFL back for 4 seasons. In those 4 years, he is the only running back in the NFL that has eclipsed 1,000 or more yards each season. Despite a mixed bag of praise and criticism, the stats do not lie. So, here are some of Harris's notable stats over his tenure thus far in Pittsburgh. 68 games played, has yet to miss a single game in NFL career. 4,312 rushing yards. 28 rushing touchdowns. 5 fumbles, 0 in 2021 or 2024. 1,149 receiving yards. 6 receiving touchdowns. While Harris's main flaw has been his end zone appearances, the rest of his resume is rather impressive. The young running back has proven to take care of the football with just 5 fumbles in 4 years. He has also shown Iron Man tendencies, as he has yet to miss a start in his NFL career. With Harris in the backfield, you are guaranteed grit on every snap. He is a physical runner who fights for every yard and is not afraid to get his hands dirty. He has made a handful of highlight plays for the black and gold during his time here and will no doubt continue making those plays wherever he ends up. In a league that requires more from their running backs than ever, Harris quietly performs at a high level. Fans and media are quick to criticize the Alabama product, but it is hard to picture a Steelers team without 22 in the backfield. Oklahoma State's Warren has proven to be one of the true underdog stories in the NFL. The undrafted 2022 signing for Pittsburgh has more than panned out. At 5'8" and 215 pounds, the bowling ball has wrecked his fair share of opponents in his 3 years with the black and gold. Here are Warren's key statistics, with a slightly smaller sample size than Harris's. 48 games played. 1,674 rushing yards. 6 rushing touchdowns. 7 fumbles. 894 receiving yards. Averaging 2.6 receptions per game. Granted that Warren has primarily served as the backup to Harris during his 3 years, he too comes in with a rather impressive resume. His ability in both the rushing and receiving game has opened up the playbook massively for Pittsburgh. Warren is an elite number 2 punch to the number 1 Harris. His speed, agility, and strength highlight what makes him a worthy NFL starter. He has fought to prove a point his entire collegiate and NFL career. Now it is hopefully time for the 4th-year man to earn his reward. While Warren has yet to show his potential as a true number 1 back in the league, he has taken over games himself in Pittsburgh. Whether or not he gets the chance to be the guy in Pittsburgh or elsewhere, one team is going to be lucky to have 30 on their side. The verdict: should the Steelers re-sign Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren? Again, there are plenty of scenarios that could happen with this RB room for Pittsburgh. What I believe is best for this team is that if you can keep both, you keep both. Harris and Warren have proven to be one of the best running back tandems in the NFL over the last 3 seasons. If they are each willing to slightly cut their pay to remain in Pittsburgh, it should be a no-brainer to bring them both back. While there are plenty of talented backs in the 2025 NFL Draft, you are essentially restarting what is already in front of you. Besides, who knows how these draftees will pan out? You have a sure thing with Warren and Harris. Diving into free agency for a back has shown to be incredibly valuable according to recent history. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley significantly changed the trajectories of their new team seasons. So much so, that they were the 2 best backs in the NFL all season. If the Steelers decide to pass on Harris, Warren, or both, it will be interesting if they look to make a big splash similar to what Baltimore and Philadelphia did. The last option would be to part ways with one man and keep the other. As hard as it would be to see either man leave, you would have to think Harris is the guy that remains. Harris has proven he can be a bell cow running back, and while he is certainly better with Warren, he can do it himself. The same cannot be said for Warren just yet, as he has yet to play a full season as the number one back. So, if Pittsburgh hypothetically keeps Harris and parts ways with Warren, then what? Well, this would allow the Steelers to use the opening rounds of the draft to focus on other important positions and potentially snag a sidekick for Harris later. Once again, this story is full of hypotheticals and what-ifs. However, out of all the options Pittsburgh has, keeping Harris and Warren looks like the best to me. Pittsburgh Steelers lose speedy wide receiver. By Nick Farabaugh, Farabaugh at PennLive.com. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Scotty Miller had his contract expire. Miller is now a free agent after it expired and can sign with any team. The Steelers released Miller late in the season and re-signed him to the practice squad. He was elevated for the team's game against the Baltimore Ravens, however, he did not play. Miller signed with the team in May and made the 53-man roster. He has been on the team for the entire year, stepping up in the wake of injuries at different points this year. He has just 5 receptions for 69 yards in 13 games. Miller also serves as the backup punt returner to Calvin Austin III. The Steelers will unlikely sign him, but he had experience in Arthur Smith's scheme, which helped him make the team with a strong training camp. If you purchase a product or register for an account through a link on our site, we may receive compensation. By using this site, you consent to our user agreement and agree that your clicks, interactions, and personal information may be collected, recorded, and/or stored by us and social media and other third-party partners in accordance with our privacy policy. Steelers T. Higgins rumor gaining steam in free agency. If the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to compete for a championship without a franchise quarterback, the only path is through acquiring high-level talents to turn last year's liabilities into next year's strengths. Chief among those key positions is receiver, where Pittsburgh relied heavily on George Pickens, but struggled with poor depth and consistency for much of the season. Reinforcing the unit by trading for Mike Williams wasn't enough. Signing the biggest contract in free agency might. A Steelers T. Higgins rumor is gaining steam ahead of free agency, and it's largely to the Cincinnati Bengals seeming hesitant to meet his price. "We feel like we have the resources to do it," Tobin said to Kelsey Conway, "but it all depends on how the negotiation goes and whether they're willing to accept wanting to come back at a number that makes sense for everybody. And you know what we do with T going forward, I've always been very upfront in my desire to have T. Higgins on our team. I've never not been upfront about that, and that desire continues, but we have to be able to come together with his representation on what that means and what the right number is for his experience, for his play time, for his production." The Bengals have little reason to let Higgins walk, outside of cap constraints and hefty bonuses ownership may not love. But even in a salary cap league, 2 parties wanting something bad enough generally ends in a deal getting done. If Higgins hits the open market, though, he would compete, if not beat, Cincinnati's offer. That's where Pittsburgh comes in. Rumor, Steelers love T. Higgins, Andrew Filipponi tweeted. And would be willing to give him more than they were willing to pay Brandon Ayuk in a trade last summer. Could mean as much as $30 million a year. Stay tuned. It remains possible that Higgins surpasses that $30 million mark. The top receivers, by average annual value, already do, and Higgins is as likely as any to set the market with his deal. While aspects of his game overlap with Pickens, both excel above the rim, Higgins would be the Steelers' top receiver with little doubt. He's more talented and consistent, and frankly money talks in terms of earning targets. Like Higgins did with Jamar Chase, providing a second quality option helps the passing offense and opens up the ground game a little more. Both are issues Pittsburgh struggled with in 2024 and could help whoever ends up under center in 2025. Perhaps most lucrative would be the ability to gain ground on a division rival. The Steelers finished ahead of the Bengals in 2024, but if Joe Burrow goes scorched earth again, any regression to the mean makes the defense formidable enough to top Pittsburgh. Being able to add a star like Higgins, who posted 911 yards and 10 touchdowns in just 12 games, while making Cincinnati that much worse, is something worth getting excited about. However, it remains a waiting game. Until Higgins hits the open market, Pittsburgh's hopes are tied to something they have no control over. And are you a fan? What do you think of T. Higgins' situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.